Hello there, Lager Counseling Services, and whoever is listening to this. We are continuing our training and understanding of the 12-step program. Today is going to be about the slogans. And all of you who are familiar with the 12-step program understand that these are the shortcuts. This is the recovery in shorthand. And the design of the slogans of the 12-step program are to create a very simple and clear path that someone who is in the process of recovery can grab onto a few small words to get them through so they don't pick up drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, and eating disordered behavior, any of the things that people become addicted to. So they are really, really profound in the recovery process. And it is important that when you have a client and you may hear these little things that your clients say, and if you are aware that these particular things are actual slogans from the program, people will give you hints that they're actually in the program. Some people will not necessarily tell you right away. They may, and it is very, very comforting and engaging when a therapist understands what these slogans mean and the power that they have for someone who's in recovery, someone's new to recovery, and to remind you that the 12-step program, it is a design for living. It is not one step, two step, three step, one slogan, do this now. It's not like here's a sheet of paper and just follow these rules. It is a whole new worldview and a new mindset shift that allows a person to be free from addictions. And it breaks life into small, easily digestible little pieces that allow a person to get through that moment in order to build many moments of sobriety. And remember, when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about any addiction. It also is extremely applicable to any area of any of our lives. So I'm just going to go through, there are so many slogans that are, just out there flying around, but there's some main ones that I have a whole list in front of me, but I'm going to tell you what each one of them is. You can also see that there's a PDF with the list of these slogans to, so that for your own perusal, you can print them out from Traineal and you can look at them and get to know them. And also, if you may really want to start using them in your own life because they're powerful. Okay. So here we go. The we're going to start with first things first. So that's a slogan. What that means is that sometimes an addict or any one of us can become overwhelmed with all the different things that we have to do how do I make these adjustments and these changes? And when a person who is new to recovery can just say, first things first, that means they know what is the first thing. And where it applies here is that no matter what, today I won't pick up. What that means is, and you'll hear people say that, go to meetings and don't pick up. But what that means is that the first thing and the number one thing for somebody, especially someone new, is that they have to know that the first things first, is that I will not pick up my drug of no choice. Now, as somebody moves through the program, this can be applicable to all different areas. First things first could be like, okay, first things first is my attitude. Because now my main priority, the phenomenon of craving has ceased. That means they're not having daily cravings for whatever their drug is. But now the process that they are moving into, because this is a lifelong design for living, is to have a consistent growth pattern in their attitude, in their emotional regularity, in their thinking, So remember, if people start to feel a little crazy, like any of us can, first things first. So what's the first thing today? And that's it. The next one is this too shall pass. So no matter what somebody is going through, no matter how hard things are, if they can just say to themselves, this too shall pass. And that's it. So remembering that all things pass. This is also a scripture in the Bible, and there are a lot of references to godly principles, but it doesn't have to be that the person um, believes in the use of the Bible. It is just a very powerful phrase. This too shall pass. And I would suggest that you guys use it too. I use it when things are really hard. I'm like, whoo, this too shall pass. Live and let live. That's number three. Live and let live. What that means is that I am only responsible for the 3 feet around me, and I will live with intention and I will let you live. What that means is that I'm not going to focus on you. A very strong heart of someone who's an addict, and probably most people, one of the great people think that one of the greatest ills of an addicted person is that at the heart of it is codependency. And that means that they are people pleasers. That means that they are focused on other people and what they do and what they don't do. And they're not turning things around to live their own life and focus on themselves. So that is it. So let's say they're just going through their life and they just get all angst up about another person. Stop and go, live and let live. These little small reminders can save a person's life. Seriously, can save relationships and marriages. Live and let live. Let go and let God. And that is, a lot of us, all of us, but particularly someone who is an addict, and it depends on the type of addiction that they're in at that time, but there's a lot of struggle with control. So to let go and to let God, the God of your understanding, whoever your higher power is that you just whisper to yourself, let go and let God. It's a process of surrendering. So much of the 12-step program is about surrendering will, surrendering our willpower and giving over to a power that's greater than us. And it's a really peaceful and beautiful state to live in if you choose to live in it, even if you don't find yourself in an active addiction that's causing you trouble. It is a beautiful lifestyle because it creates a tremendous amount of peace. So there's a slogan that can tie to it also. It's easy does it. So let's say somebody's getting angst up, and that is not an uncommon thing for a person who is an addict because they can get really revved up because they don't have the thing that's going to bring this false sense of peace or this drug that's going to scratch the itch. So it can become in the early stages and at any time where they're not easy, they're not calm. So just whispering to yourself, easy does it and then the thing that's attached to it, easy does it, because sometimes people will be like, easy does it, and they're laying on their damn couch, like eating and just watching shit and not doing the productive thing. So it's easy does it, but do it. So when an addict is finding themselves in a struggle, so it's easy does it, but do it, right? Because peace is very, very important. The next is one day at a time, which all of you have heard, but I want to really drive this home. So the concept of one day at a time is that when someone is going to lay down a drug, you have to remember, what does it mean to be addicted? It means that I keep doing this repeated behavior, consuming this thing, feeling this thing, doing this thing, and I am not able to stop. So if you think about not being able to stop, right? And then people are told, well, my life is completely unmanageable. Everything's falling apart. Now I can't. But now the only way I'm going to feel okay or things are going to get better is if I stop. But then they think, how can I stop? I can't stop. And you got to get into the head of someone who's struggling, who crossed the line and they can't stop doing the thing that they're doing. You want to really understand that. That's what that is. I can't stop the thing that I'm doing, and I'm terrified because I can't keep doing it either. So that's why people are in a very, very painful place at that moment when they hit their bottom, because they can hit their bottom and choose to live, or they can choose to die. Seriously. Because if I go forward, I can't go forward with my drug and I can't go forward without my drug. What the hell do I do? So think about it from that perspective. So one day at a time is that you don't have to stop your drug, your anything for anything more than the 12 hours from the time you wake up until you go to bed tonight. And one of the things that can really help a person is to be able to think, okay, all I have to do is a minute. Okay, I did the minute. Okay, let me do another minute because it's not just one day at a time. It's breaking up a very, very monumental task into easily digestible pieces. So you may not feel like you can do a lifetime without alcohol, but you can definitely do a day. Or can you do an hour? And this is what I want you to remember when you're counseling people. It's not just like, oh, one day at a time, but they'll be like, I don't know if I can do a day. So what we want to do is always encourage, like, yeah, I get it. I understand that it really feels that way. And that makes sense. That's what an addiction is. It feels like it is absolutely impossible. And then you could present to them, do you feel like you could do a minute? It's really cool and you say, hey, you know what I noticed? We've been together like 40 minutes so far, and you didn't use your drug. You didn't binge, purge, starve. You didn't watch porn during this. So you were able to do, 15 minutes, an hour. Do you think you could do another 15? And you help them to learn how to break things down. So being able to say one day at a time. I always suggest with people who are newer, who feel panicky and just don't know how to do it. One of the things that make people resist being in any kind of recovery is they don't think they can do it for a lifetime, and they can't. All they have to do is a day at a time. All they have to have is a desire to stop drinking, using, being, whatever it is. That's all they need. And you want to make it very, very simple for them. That brings me to another slogan: keep it simple. Keep it simple. So when it's a simple program for complicated people, and that's another slogan too, to say keep it simple. This is, to understand that very often addicts have a lot happening. They're usually very empathetic. They feel a lot. So they're trying to manage emotional states with drugs, alcohol, sex, food, no food. It's a way of finding a way to manage what feels too big for them inside. So what we do is we simplify it and we help them to simplify it with these small slogans. So I don't want you to neglect understanding each one of these slogans. I mean, you don't have to, it's not about memorizing them. Try to live with them. So what I'm going to suggest to you is what I suggest to people who are addicts. And it's one of the things that I've done in a program that I have. It's called Women of Excellence Daily Challenge. And what it is just giving people bite-sized daily challenges, or the thing that we do with our groups where we ask people to find the pearl. And what that is when I was beginning my recovery from an eating disorder many, many, many years ago, I needed to go to meetings, 90 meetings in 90 days. That's another slogan, 90 and 90. Did you do 90 and 90? What that means is that the suggestion for all people new to recovery is that they do 90 meetings in 90 days. That means you take 90 days of your life starting today and you attend a meeting every single day. So what I would do is, and inevitably, you will end up at meetings that suck. You will end up at meetings where people annoy you. You will end up at meetings that are incredible. You'll end up at meetings that change your life. You'll end up at meetings that are not there. Nobody's there. But what I want to say to you, and this is what you can encourage your clients, is I would do this little thing for myself. I carried around a very small little notebook, these little spiral teeny notebooks, and I was desperate. I was somebody who crossed the line and I didn't think I would ever get back. So, as I teach you guys about eating disorders, also, I'm going to teach you that at any addiction, there is this terrifying experience. And not everybody gets there before they recover. Some people start their recovery before they've crossed the line. And I can explain that further. But what that means is once somebody has crossed the line, that means they're like, oh my God. And I remember the feeling. I'm like, I crossed the line. I can't get back. And it's so scary. So it's like once you repeatedly do a behavior, whatever it is, and it becomes a habit and it becomes part of your chemistry and part of your wiring. And then as an addict, you just cannot get back. So there's a part of you that believes and falls into despair and does not believe that there is ever going to be a way back. So what I want you to understand about this is that in this kind of process, we want to be able to help people one speck at a time. Keep it simple, right? And there's a thing in the program which I never say, and I don't even like it because I don't agree with it. It's called Keep It Simple, Stupid. KISS. It is a slogan. I don't like saying it because I don't like calling myself stupid or anyone else stupid, but I get it. But a lot of people say that. So if you hear people say that, and you've probably heard it, but it comes from the 12-step program. Okay. So keeping things simple when you feel terrorized and you feel like there's no way out, you help a person to break it into the smallest chunks that gives them evidence that they can get out. Can you do it for 5 minutes? No. Okay. Can you do it for 30 seconds? So this is small bits of information that helps to simplify the healing process that makes them see, wow, I could do that. And then they gain momentum. So you want to remember that part for them. Another slogan, but it's also something else. It's called Place Principles Above Personalities. I try to run Lager counseling that way. And when I fall into like focusing on personalities above the principles, that's when I get in trouble as an owner. And believe me, I've done it lots of times. And what that means, what that actually is, it's called Place Principles Above Personalities. But what that slogan is, it's a tradition in the 12 steps. So the 12 steps has 12 steps and 12 traditions. And they're the backbone, it's the business end of how the program works, which I will also teach you guys. But there's some of the principles are also used as slogans. So we place principles above personalities. That means you stick to what the 12-step program is, no matter what. You stick to the principles of recovery, not the personalities of people in the room or anything like that. What I was telling you about, and I digressed, but what I was telling you about when I would go to a meeting that was not great, what I would do is I would say, I'm going to find a pearl. And whatever that was. So what I would do is enter a meeting and I'd be intentional. And I would take out my notebook and I would wait and I would listen. And I would also pray and say, let me hear one thing, see one thing that I can use as a principle for the next 24 hours. And then I would find my pearl. It would be a revelation. It would be one thing someone said. It could be the smallest thing. But usually, if you're looking for something like something that's going to teach you something, you'll find it. So I intentionally went into rooms, and people will call meetings rooms So that's another thing I want you to remember. So I would intentionally go into a room and then I would, even if the whole meeting was a wash, I would every time hear one thing. And I was like, yes, that's my pearl. I would write it down. And then that would be my focus for the next 24 hours. And that's what my group is for women. I would have a challenge for them, how to say, no, how to tell people no instead of saying yes when you mean no. So then they would have to do that for the next 24 hours. So this is something you can utilize with these slogans. And this is the way you, as a clinician, can learn the slogans. This is my suggestion to you, and I suggest it to clients too. Take each of these slogans, put them on a little piece of paper, put them in a little dish, and then every day, just pick one out and then let that be a guiding force for you for the next 24 hours. Trust me, you will learn the slogans and your life will get better. So it's a win-win. And you know what? You'll be able to really relate to your clients who are living by these principles. The next thing, there's tons of them, but I'm not doing all of them. Misery is optional. That's a program. So that's a whole program in itself. That is a slogan. Misery is optional. So in the moment, when you start to feel misery, be aware of it and then say, misery is optional. I have a choice. That's why I tell you guys, stress is a choice. Being burnt out is a choice. We can choose something different. I can choose peace instead of this. It's not a slogan in the 12 steps, but I use that. When you start to feel amped up, and just say to yourself, I can choose peace instead of this. Next is live life on life's terms. So you will hear your clients say, I'm just living life on life's terms. So it's being in a state of acceptance, being in a state of, I'm going to live life on life's terms. I'm not going to try to adjust everything to my desires. And that's what addicts do. Hey, you know what? I don't like the way this is. I'm not comfortable. I'm going to adjust this. I'm going to change you, and you. I'm going to change that. You know what? So I feel good. No. An addict's program of recovery is to understand that you are not going to change anyone else. And what you're going to do is you're going to live this life on life's terms. So that means, an example for a gambler is I'm going to pay back my gambling debt on life's terms. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to use the scammer's way. I'm not going to use the gambler's way. I'm not going to use the addict's way of manipulating. I'm not going to use methods of secrecy. No, I'm going to live life on life's terms. And what that means is healthy terms. Next thing, you can't think your way into a new way of living. You have to live your way into a new way of thinking. That's a long one. It's not typically a slogan, but it's cool. Another one is a slogan is God, G-O-D, good, orderly direction. So people use that as their higher power. So let's say somebody doesn't really believe in God or whatever, wherever they're at, they've had bad religious experiences. You can just say, hey, just think of God as good, orderly direction. I surrender my life to good, orderly direction. So remember that God, good, orderly direction. Halt. That's another slogan. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. So in it with an addict, any addict, anybody who is on a slippery slope, who could use again, they just stop and say, halt. If you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, stop. Stop. If you're hungry, eat. If you're angry, process it. Don't focus outward. Go in to understand you in terms of the anger, not someone else. Lonely, call a friend, call your sponsor. Don't start to victimize yourself for being lonely. Tired, get some rest. Also, another thing is we can live through being tired. So people who move through recovery understand that living life on life's terms is sometimes you're tired and it's okay. It's not a crisis. We do not have to catastrophize the situations in life. And when you begin to develop, and you'll notice somebody who's really in recovery, you'll start to notice that they live in a state of acceptance. So that's another slogan. Acceptance is the answer to all of my problems today. And that is in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous on page 417. It used to be on older editions on page 449. If you want to understand something about a beautiful design for living, read that. You can look it up, you can Google it, or you can look at it in a big book. I always suggest that people read the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous because it's life changing. And there's ways to read it that would be helpful for you in a different kind of way. So the next thing is how, HOW, how it works. Honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. So it's a program of rigorous honesty. So that's what you will hear. That's another slogan, or it's a reference that you'll hear in the 12-step program. A program of rigorous honesty. Honesty is the only choice. Open-mindedness and willingness. So it's a surrendered state. Next, SLIP, SLIP. Sobriety lost its priority. That's how people have a slip. You will also hear people talk about they had a slip or they had a relapse. A slip is usually referenced that they went out, they did the drug, but they came back in. A relapse typically is used as a more long-term thing that happens, that people went back out, they stayed out for a while. So when I use the term, they went out, what that means is, and I'm realizing that these are maybe like terminology that you may not notice. When somebody says, yeah, they went back out, that means they went back out and used whatever the drug is. So, they came back in. So it's like they're in recovery, they're out of recovery. So that's something else to remember. Another thing that I think is cool, it's not on this list, but it says under every skirt, there's a slip. And that is most often referenced, it's about men with women, but it also refers in the other way that people in recovery are not supposed to get into relationships for 1 year. The reason is that they are supposed to focus on themselves. And the reason that it's said under every skirt, there's a slip, and it goes either way, is that if somebody comes into the rooms and they put down their drug and they're vulnerable, they need to really focus one moment at a time, whatever that is, it is very, very common for them to see people in the rooms, and it could be somebody of the opposite sex, and it's a free-for-all, trust me, where people will get into a relationship or be with someone during that early sobriety, and that's why it says under every skirt there's a slip. So if you do not go out with someone else, and there's this is another phrase that you'll hear in the 12-step program. They'll say that somebody 13th stepped them, and what that means is that you have a person who's in recovery for a period of time, usually a longer period of time. Someone new comes in who's in early recovery, and they go and try to have a romantic relationship with them. That is considered completely wrong. And people who have good, healthy recovery understand that it's men with the men, women with the women. So they will say that. You stick with the men with the men. So if a woman comes into, it could be AA or any program, and some are different than others because it's not as broken up into men and women. But let's just say with AA or NA, there's, both men and women. And, usually, so the point is what you're supposed to do is when a newcomer comes in, that's the priority of every meeting. So anyone who has any time will go over, give their number, offer, like a friendship just to the person and encourage them. When somebody of the opposite sex does that, and they're not supposed to do it. And it's because it's kind of a power imbalance and it can take advantage of a newcomer. So I just want to point that out because you may hear that. You probably will hear it as you're counseling people. A guy might come in and go, "Yeah, I 13 stepped her." And you want to know what that means? That means he picked up a girl. Maybe he has 12 years clean. He picked up a girl who just came into the rooms. I don't know why I did that. I'm so fucked up. I just 12 stepped this, I just 13 stepped this girl. So let me just switch over to, because I just said 12 step someone. So when somebody 12 steps someone, that means the 12 step is having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. We practice these principles in all our affairs. What that means is that when you 12 step someone, it's when a couple of people in recovery go to somebody's house. It's kind of like an intervention, and it's always two people, at least two people. They'll go to somebody in the hospital, they'll go to someone who a family friend or something asked, and they'll go in and they'll sit with that person, and all they do is tell their story. Hey, I want to tell you about me. And they tell their story of brokenness, of hurt, of recovery, and they try to encourage and help this other person. When they 12 step that person, they also make it easy for that person to get to meetings. They'll offer them rides. They'll say, "Hey, you want to meet me here at this time?" And there's a philosophy that you can't keep what you have if you don't give it away. That's a slogan. That's a life principle that I believe in, that anything you have, if you don't give it away, you can't keep it. So that is part of the design of the 12-step program. The next is keep coming back. It works if you work it. So they say that at the end of every meeting, and it's important to keep coming back. Another thing is meeting makers make it. And it's really the philosophy that whether you like it or not, going to meetings, even if you're busy, that's an investment in yourself that you don't want to give up. I know people who literally are in recovery, gamblers, and all different kinds of recovery forever, and they still are meeting makers. They make meetings because also they have something to give. They sit in that room and they are a role model for the people who are coming in, who are still sick and suffering, who are really suffering, and they are a model of health and strength. Can you imagine if everybody who gets 5 years, 10 years, 20 years leaves the rooms because they've made it? Now, what about the people who come in and they need help? They need to know that there is help. They need to know, they need to see someone who lives a whole lifetime of recovery. So that's a very important principle. Progress, not perfection. That is something, addicts are want instant gratification. If you're told, beyond your wildest dreams, which is another slogan, it really means that if you decide to be in the 12-step program, you will live a life beyond your wildest dreams. And that is actually a fact. So remember that. So it's progress, not perfection. But an addict, or most of us, we want to see the results right away. I know I do. And they can be people that are not as patient. That's why they'll reach for something that's going to make them feel better, scratch the itch. So it's helping them simplify, slow down. It's progress, not perfection, not beat themselves up, because addicts will beat themselves up and then they'll have an excuse to go out and use. It brings me to another slogan. There's no excuses. Excuse me, that's not it. There's no reasons, only excuses. So when somebody starts to say a reason why they went out, the slogan is, there's no reasons, there's only excuses. So there's no reason that you went out, only excuses. Okay, next, keep it simple. I told you about stick with the winners. And that's really about, changing your lifestyle, changing who you hang out with, changing the way in which you live, who you look up to. So you want to stick with the winners. People who are in recovery, people who do not hang out and do the things that will tempt you. Next, turn it over. That's a simple way of just saying, this is bothering me so much, and say, you know what, I just turned it over. So you hear people say that. And when you hear them say that, what they mean is that they turned it over to God, that they surrendered. Next, nothing is so bad that a drink won't make worse. So somebody in recovery will experience something bad and they'll say, there's nothing so bad that a binge and purge wouldn't make worse. There's nothing so bad that a drink wouldn't make worse. There's nothing so bad that a hit wouldn't make worse. There's nothing so bad that pornography wouldn't make worse. So the reason that you say that is because if you think about it, we are very, very hyper conditioned in our society to say, have a drink. You know, you had a hard day. Oh, that was so bad. I need a drink. That was so bad. You know, I'm going to treat myself to starvation, whatever the hell it is, right? So think about it. So we're rewiring our brain. This is CBT. This is real shit, but we tend to poo-poo this. We don't want to. Okay, next, just for today. Just for today, I will live this life and I will live it on life's terms. And I can get through 12 hours of something I appall if I knew I had to keep it up for a lifetime. So the thing is like being able to say, just for today, I will not, I will, I will surrender and I will stop trying to adjust everything to my own desires just for today. So then that is a quick thing that you can grab if you're feeling like you want to use just for today. Just for today. You know, I'm good just for today. Next, when all else fails, follow directions. I believe that. I really believe that. I used to tell people, you know, follow the 12-step program when you have nothing else. Follow it like you're listening to your parents. If you did listen to your parents, or follow it just like the rules, just for the day. So some days are just like, just get up, go to a meeting. Don't think about it. Don't do anything but just walk there, do that. So, like, there would be days where it would be like the only meeting for me would be like an hour and a half away. So I'd be like, oh, I don't want to. Just follow the directions. Just go. Just get in the car, put on your clothes, go, just walk, just do, and don't think, right? Just follow the directions. Be a robot when you can't be, you know, when your emotions are going to take you away from your recovery. Next, experience strength and hope. So when people are in a meeting, a lot of times people they call it drunkalogs. So what people will do is they'll glorify their drug alcohol use. They'll glorify the times they were high, and that's not an acceptable use of the time. A lot of times when people are newcomers, they'll do that. So if they do that, you know, I mean, people are gracious to them, but then they start to learn that what we're supposed to share in meetings is experience, strength, and hope. So what you do is you share your experience, but then you share your strength, and then you share the hope of getting out of it. So when you share, that's what you do. Another slogan that's not listed here, it's that if you don't share, you're not there. I believe that if you go to a meeting, say something. Hi, I'm so and so, and I am blah, whatever it is. I'm grateful to be here. But if you don't share, you're not there. Um, Next, nothing changes if nothing changes. It's very simple. Nothing's going to change if you don't change. No one's coming to save you. That is one of the biggest parts of what someone hitting a bottom. Okay, one drink is too many and 1,000 isn't enough. So basically, you will not get the first drink is never enough, and 1,000 is also never enough. So one drink is too much and 1,000 is never enough. So remember that. One hit is too much because our programming is, oh, just one. Oh, I can do just one. But the truth is just one is always too much. And then after that, just one, 1,000 is never enough. Next, stick with the winners. I told you 7 days without a meeting makes 1 week. There are a lot of other slogans, and I can't even at the moment remember all of them, but you will start to hear different slogans, different little phrases that are used in meetings that people in recovery hold on to. Don't quit before the miracle happens. There's really a lot of them, and people use them to stay clean in their mind, clean physically from the drug. And what I want you to remember is, as the owner of Lager Counseling Services, it is very important to me and the principles here. And it's not just because of my history, it is because I am certain that if you understand the 12-step program, the design for living, that you will become exponentially better at helping other people. You don't have to be touting it or, reading off the steps. But if you understand them and if you just allow your own life to say, hey, let me try this. Let it fit into your own philosophy spiritually. So, a lot of very big misconception about this program of recovery. It is a spiritual program. It is. And the philosophy is that without a spiritual source, that it is not as easy to recover. People do recover without that, but they do find other means of things that are greater than them. When you are the greatest thing in your life or the thing that is in charge of everything, it is very hard to recover. So please do not fall into the lie of, oh, people saying, well, yeah, I'm not into it. It's so religious. Well, there's going to be people that are going to stand up and they're going to sound religious, just like anything. So we don't allow the people to destroy the principles of the program. That's why that discipline of going to 90 meetings in 90 days and understanding that you're going to see all kinds of characters, and the characters are not the people. They're not the thing that represents the program. The program itself stands on itself, that it's a design for you that you can hold on to in all areas of life to be a better human, to think in a much cleaner way, to be able to not be overpowered by anything, any other thing in your life that you just hand over your power to. This is good for rageaholics. It's good for any kind of ism. It's good for all of us. So what I want to say is, please, as an employee here, make a concerted effort to really understand it. And, you could just Google the first step of the 12-step program and understand what it means. And I think I explained it to you, but I would love to hear from you guys. You can tell me any other questions you may have about it. I will probably put something in about the principles of the program. I'm going to throw another slogan to you guys. It's called that the program is based on attraction and not promotion. So that's not a slogan. That's a tradition of the 12-step program. And it's what that means is that the 12-step program is never promoted. You'll never see an ad about it ever. It's based on attraction. So as a therapist here, what I would like is you to become attractive in your design for living. You don't have to have an addiction to live by these principles because they're available to all of us. And these principles will change your whole life. They'll make every rough road smoother. And if the road is not smoother, what really happens is that you're able to withstand rough roads differently, and rough roads don't mean anything to you anymore. And that's the coolest part. It's not like life, I'm saying life gets easier. It's not really that. It's that life doesn't have that power over you to take you down anymore. So, with all of that being said, I want to thank you for listening to me. I want to thank you for honing in on the slogans. And I look forward to seeing you in the next training. Bye, guys.